What happened?
It's on. Welcome, everybody, to Current Status. This is episode 19, and today is April 23rd. My name is Teresa Miller, and I can be found on Twitter at 24/7 IT Connect.
And my name's Melissa Palmer. You can find me on Twitter at vmis33.
And tonight we have... Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
Oh, Puma, I'm so
We just had a
sorry.
rough start today.
It's just not going to
And
happen
I'm
tonight.
Puma Schmidt. I know. I'm Puma Schmidt, and you can find me on Twitter at Exchange Goddess. We made it. The intros.
All right, so we have a special guest with us tonight, Janene Ellefson, with Micron, and we would like to learn a little bit more about you before we start talking about SSD tonight.
Sure. Okay. So I've been with Micron for about 26 years. And my entire, actually most of my existence at Micron has been in the non-volatile memory storage, so NOR flash and NAND flash. And then the past 5 years, I've had the privilege of being the worldwide product marketing manager for PCIe SSDs at Micron.
Excellent. So one of the things that I think we're all kind of wondering is, how do you see SSD fitting into the future of disks?
Sure.
And
So,
storage?
okay. So I don't think hard drives will ever really go away. They'll always have their spot. But what we're finding is that the economies of scale, or SSDs in general, NAND has gotten to a point where it's extremely cost effective. We are getting SSDs that are less than $1 per gigabyte, and they have extremely high performance, up to 6 gigabytes per second performance, as well as very high capacities. So you're seeing SSDs that are north of 3 and 6 terabytes capacity points. So when you combine the ultra low latency, very high performance, and lower cost per bit, it's a pretty compelling story for the adoption of SSDs. So I think that adoption is going to grow tremendously.
Would you say?
So-
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead first.
I was going to ask. So do you see it being the norm now versus your average spinning disk?
Oh yeah,
where
absolutely.
Everybody just goes with flash.
Yeah, absolutely. I have to say, 5 years ago, I was always having the conversation with customers when they would say, well, why do I need an SSD? And now the question or the conversation that we're having is, well, I need an SSD. This is what I'm looking at, or here's my workload, here's the things that I'm trying to do. What SSD in your portfolio would be best suited for me? So there's definitely a question. I think everyone's well aware of all the benefits that SSD brings, and so now it's definitely a question of, I need an SSD. But also, I think users, IT managers, are getting more savvy about how they spend their IT money, and so, you know, for very, very cold storage, they're still using hard disk drives. But for hot or warmer data, they're definitely using SSDs to accelerate their applications.
So we see like flash a lot of different places. You know, I have my little USB thumb drive I plug into my computer. I have an SSD in my laptop. And then you mentioned that you were doing PCIe SSD kind of at the enterprise level. Can you kind of give a little bit of an overview of the different types of SSDs those all might be and where they play?
Yeah, absolutely. So the great thing about SSDs is they really come in 3 main interfaces. So SATA, SAS, which is very traditional to hard disk drive interfaces, and then PCIe. And within the SATA space, you actually have a couple different form factors to choose from. So you have mSATA, which is really kind of small. It's almost, it's pretty, it's a little bit bigger than like maybe a couple USB sticks put together. And then you've got, you know, the 2.5-inch and even 3.5-inch drives that are traditional to hard disk drives. And on PCIe, you've got a couple different form factors to work from. You've got the M.2 form factor, which is really almost like the size of a stick of gum. We call it the gum stick form factor, and you'll find that form factor in like the Apple MacBook Airs, the MacBook Pros. Very high performance. PCIe gives you a lot of performance, but it's a very small form factor. We're also seeing the traditional PCIe drives coming in the standard half height, half length. That they're like almost like a, you know, like a big PCB with they're quite large, that, you know, get embedded into the server, and then also a 2.5-inch hot swappable form factor. So you throw in all the different interfaces in between, you know, for client and enterprise, and then you throw in all the different form factors, and SSDs become very easy to integrate into all different kinds of systems.
It just seems like to me, as you're explaining this, it seems like it's common sense. Like, why even choose any other disk, you know, form factor? Just go straight to SSD. I mean, spinning disk, just throw it out the window.
Yeah, exactly. And the downside with spinning disks is that, you know, it consumes a lot of power. So, you know, when you're looking at, you know, on the consumer side, if you're looking at ultrabooks or tablets and you want that instant on capability, very high or very long battery life, SSDs hands down just, you know, completely clobbers HDDs in terms of performance and battery life.
Well, and it sounds like the cost has really reduced drastically over the last few years, so that's also a compelling reason to do it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. For PCIe in general, I'm going to kind of speak to that because it's near and dear to my heart, but it's seen more as a high-performance SSD in the enterprise space. And, you know, 5 years ago, we were talking about $10 to, you know, $12 per gigabyte, which was very expensive. And a lot of people didn't really want to adopt it because it was kind of out of the price point range. But now we're seeing PCIe SSDs under $1 per gigabyte. So now, you know, all that performance becomes very attractive and very affordable.
What kind of workloads, or I guess what kind of applications are you seeing take advantage of this? Like, is it mostly databases or application, like web applications?
Yeah, so we're actually seeing a lot of use cases for SSDs in general. Virtualization is a great space. In fact, I'm going to do a little plug here for Micron, but we actually have some case studies on Micron.com that talk about how you get over boot storms and things like that with SSDs. They're great for big data analytic environments. They're great for OLTP type of environment, the online transactional processing. There's a lot of different applications where SSDs definitely benefits. And the great thing too is that because customers are getting more savvy about their workload, we're able to offer customers different varieties of SSDs in terms of endurance. So maybe like a write once, read many, or a more balanced mixed workload where you're getting 3 to 8 drive fills per day. Or even a 10 fill per day product. So we're able to offer different price points and different performance metrics depending on what the customer really needs for their application.
So do you see customers retrofitting their current hardware, or are they purchasing new hardware with the drives already in place, shipped to them?
Yeah, it's actually a little bit of both. So we've got customers that maybe have some legacy hardware and they want to squeeze a little more juice out of their hardware and get some more performance out of their existing applications, because that's kind of an easy thing to do, is just take out hard disk drives and put in SSDs. It's a pretty easy thing to do. And then we're also seeing brand new build-outs for data centers and other deployments where they're completely going with SSDs or even a hybrid mix of some HDDs for super cold storage and then SSDs for warm and hot data.
So you said you've kind of been working with a lot of the flash technologies for a very long time. So I guess I kind of want your perspective on what are the things that happened in the last number of years in the flash realm that kind of got us where we are today, where it's something common versus before you had a very small amount of flash in a system holding settings or something like that. What is it that you think got us here?
Sure. I think a lot of it is just, if you rewind probably 10 or 15 years ago, NOR flash was really the newest non-volatile memory, and NOR flash still gets used today on a number of different applications. The architecture of NOR flash is quite different than NAND. The way the cells are organized are a little bit different. You'll find NOR flash in a lot of cell phone applications and things like that. And even though it's still widely used, the capacities aren't as high, and the price point is a little bit different. But with the entrance of NAND flash, which is really, I kind of call it dumb storage, because it's almost like a big warehouse. You just store a bunch of stuff in it. It's pretty easy technology. Then once we got into that, and it was really NAND flash is really geared towards true storage, right? Then and the economies of scales were lots of lithography shrinks to lower the cell size and increase the capacity points. Then you really start to get in a picture where your dollar per gigabyte really comes down to a very low dollar per gigabyte, and that allowed that progression of with each step that went down, there was more and more and more adoption, and that when that starts to happen, then it becomes more and more affordable. Hopefully that answered your question. I'm not sure I completely got it.
So kind of, I guess, kind of in the future, we're probably looking at the same thing. Everything's going to get smaller, and you're going to be able to pack more of it into a form factor. It's going to get cheaper, and we're going to see it more and more and more.
Right.
Cheaper, faster, and more capacity.
And I like to call it dumb storage, too, because I like to say it's dumb because it's stupid fast.
Oh, that's awesome.
But it's the trend, though. I mean, everybody wants everything right now, instantaneously. And for whatever, I mean, it's anything. Email, your TV, movie, everything must be right now. So I could definitely see, 2 years from now, that the technology that we see today is just going to be completely different in 2 years. I mean, I just know from what my husband does, the technology that he's working on, we probably haven't even thought about it yet. we're slightly thinking about it right now. So yeah, it's in prototype in labs, but it's amazing because we just want everything faster, and we want more faster.
Yep.
Right now.
Yep.
I remember
exactly.
a couple years ago where the big thing was getting an SSD for your desktop. And it's like, oh man, my desktop's slow, and I'm going to pop in an SSD, and it's going to boot in 6 seconds, and when I run games, it's going to be super fast and all this stuff. And it's almost like it almost trickled up into the enterprise because everybody got kind of used to it at the consumer level, and they're like, well, why can't my server boot in 6 seconds? Because that would be really cool too, and why can't I get this great performance on my server like I'm getting on my games?
Exactly.
Why does it take 10 minutes to boot my Dell server? Sorry, I just threw somebody under the bus.
I know, it's funny.
Sorry, when you have,
I think that's
300 gigs of RAM, it's going to take 20 minutes to boot up.
I think that's a really interesting... Yeah, that's true. What I think is interesting is how the landscape has really changed, in terms of like how our users control more of what we do in IT. Like years ago, we dictated what they would have, and now it's all about, like you said, that speed. It's all about what the user wants.
Yep.
I want an SSD drive in my new laptop. We have users that ask for it. Why does my laptop take a couple minutes to boot up? I want it to boot up in 30 seconds. Why don't I have an SSD drive? Next thing you know, the standard is SSD drives for all laptops.
Yep.
That's the norm now. Now, there's still some spinning disk floating around, but why would you have that on a laptop anyway? It's mobile. Laptops fall.
Well, plus they're a lot more durable. Like I'm kind of into, me and my friends did a high altitude balloon thing, and luckily we recovered everything and it was all one piece. But people put the flash cards into their cameras, the camera will be destroyed, but they can still yank the flash card out and use it.
I mean, it's not like you're going to move your servers all the time, but
No, but for the consumer stuff, it helps, and you never know.
Yeah, definitely
maybe I have a server that's in some vehicle someplace that is in some area that has lots of things.
Or even your blades. I've worked in environments where blades would be removed quite often. We'd change them around, put them in different chassis all the time.
Sometimes people drop them. You never know.
Yeah.
Well, I've never done that.
The military actually, if you think about the amount of data that comes off like a drone, and if they're in the field, in times of war, or the other kinds of applications that are really possible now that weren't before with NAND, is even in the space of oil and gas or medical.
That's a good point.
If you've got like mobile mammogram units, you've got in fact, I know of an application where it's a mobile, what do you call it when you go in the tunnel in the the CAT scan. It's a mobile unit, right? And they use SSDs to pull that data off really quickly, because you can't be in the CAT scan unit for very long for health reasons, because I think they don't know what's going to happen, right? But those mobile units are on wheels and they're moving around, and you can imagine if the SS, if there was hard disk drives and they're bouncing around, and the mechanical nature of the HDDs is getting damaged, right? So when you start to really kind of grasp all the cool applications and just the technology that's available, it's just amazing.
So you're saying that Tom Cruise's fighter jet should have had an SSD in it? It probably did.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, probably several. Yeah,
absolutely.
And Goose is giving the bird.
Negative Ghost Rider. The pattern is full.
But that's a really good point. The kind of the lack of mechanical parts is another thing that just makes them so great. Less stuff to break. Less stuff to get dust in them.
I have an SSD in my laptop, and I actually it fell off the table, and I was using it, and it fell off the table, and it didn't even miss a beat. If that was a hard drive in there, oh my gosh.
Oh, that's awesome.
It would have been a mess. I'd have lost data for sure.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sitting here going down memory lane here, back during Y2K, people shut off servers that hadn't been shut off for years, and the hard drives in those systems seized. Yeah, so to be beyond that and have these technology options is wonderful. The other thing, when we're talking about blades, I'm not going to name the vendor, but years ago there was a vendor that literally had laptop hard drives in their blades. And I'm not kidding, and their support person told one of my colleagues to, if they needed a hard drive, go grab one out of a laptop. Okay. So thankfully, we are well beyond these things. Yeah.
Well,
I won't name the vendor.
There are different grades of SSDs, right? So we kind of have the consumer versions, and then we have the more enterprise versions. What's kind of the big difference between some of that?
Is there a difference,
Sure.
or can you use them interchangeably?
Well, you actually can use them interchangeably, but it really just depends on what you need. So the client drives are going to have lower endurance, because you're not going to be writing that much data from your laptop or to really need a lot of high endurance. So They're going to have different, the client drives are going to usually have different features like dev sleep and instant power on and some other types of features. But more importantly, the enterprise drives are going to have more data path protection schemes. So there's a number of different things that you can do for data path protection. And the biggest thing is they're going to have power holdup. And essentially what that is that if there's a sudden loss of power to the server, usually there's enough capacitance in the drive that flushes any remaining data that's quote unquote in flight to the NAND so that you don't lose any data. I mean, it's generally not typical for data centers and servers in general to go down, but if they do, there's an extra layer of protection there. So there fundamentally is some difference, usually based on the performance piece of it, and definitely, like I said, some of the enterprise-based features that are the environment tends to be a little more rigid in terms of data protection and that type of thing.
Well,
so
kind of shifting gears, do we want to talk about
Yep.
what's been going on this week?
I just want to say
let's
that
talk
McDreamy
about
would have had
some
lived
news.
if they had a mobile CAT scanner with an SSD in it. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
All I'm saying.
Really?
Yeah, you're right.
He's gone
you're
from
right.
the
He
show?
could've-
Is that why you were
Yeah, they
bumming?
couldn't pull up his medical records in time. Probably what it was. They couldn't pull his medical records.
SSDs,
You're running on SATA.
that hospital is running SATA. Anyway.
So, anyways, we did in the news this week. There were some things going on. The RSA conference released some information about possibly like an Apple software bug. Did you guys hear about
Yeah,
that?
I did. Yeah, I did. I just kind of grazed it and go, oh, another bug. It seems like
Yeah.
there's one announced every day now. I'm almost kind of like immune to it. It just seems like
Yeah.
every day there's just something else. It's like, seriously, people?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Well, and that
There's
was always
some
one of the
new
things-
security thing.
Yeah, that's true. But this is the first time I think Apple's really had anything that could potentially be significant on these iPhones that I can think of. So we'll see.
Wasn't there a thing for a while where I remember you had to do something to it, but like you took your iPhone, you plugged in, you pulled up the Maps application or something, and it was storing the locations of everywhere you've been?
Yep.
So like you pulled up this giant map and it shows everywhere you basically were with your iPhone. And I know there were some kind of concerns over that. Well, is Apple getting this data? Are they doing something with it? Stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So there's been some weird stuff with iPhones. Plus, they're building the
Yeah.
world's largest fingerprint database by everybody using Touch ID. Oh, look, it's so much easier. I don't have to put in my passcode.
Mm-hmm.
I use. You know what? I love it. I love it. When I'm running, I use my phone because I track my my steps. So instead of putting my pin in, I just use my finger. It's awesome. I love it. The horrible thing is, though, I don't remember my pin.
Oh, funny.
So I really need to make sure I have my fingers. Yeah, it's awful. I'm like, oh man.
Maybe you should roll some of your toes too, just in case. You never know.
Yeah,
I haven't tried my toes.
Use it. Maybe we should try toes.
Oh, we gotta try toes.
Yeah, I have to. Well, I injured myself today, so I'm not sure if I could use my toes. Yeah, we had an accident. I was doing laps in the kitchen. Yes, we do laps in the kitchen. So, and I guess on another security topic, RSA this week. I guess
Yes.
that's the big conference. Actually, it's the start of the conference season. RSA is the first one. What's next week?
Next week is Interop, and I will be there with
Yes.
Virtual Design Master. So if you're at Interop, stop by booth 1007. We'll be running Virtual Design Master live, and anybody can compete. Should be fun.
Awesome.
And then Ignite the following
Yep.
week, where
I'll be
Teresa and I will be at Ignite.
Yeah.
Are you going
And
to
then
be here
open it
I'll
up.
tonight?
be at night. Too. Yeah, I'll be there. Yeah, I'll be there.
Oh, great.
Oh,
We'll have to have a drink.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yes, yes. We'll have to have a drink on Tuesday when we're in town. And then aren't you going to Citrix Synergy, Teresa, the following week?
I am. And then following Citrix Synergy is E2E Virtualization Conference. That's Friday and Saturday following Synergy. So yeah, there's a lot of
Tis the
conferences.
season.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the start. And also a little plug-in for VMware. If anybody's going to be submitting any sessions, I think Tuesday's the last day.
Yes, everybody get your sessions in. I have to get mine in. Haven't done it yet. But I'm gonna put one in.
Yeah. Do it. I think I'm going to do one too.
Awesome.
The best shoes. How not to hurt your ankle when you're running and doing laps in the kitchen.
When you're running laps in the kitchen.
Running
Yeah, there you go.
Why are you doing laps in the kitchen? Don't ask. Yeah, just don't do it in the kitchen. Okay, we're drifting now.
Yeah, so I think this is probably a good place to wrap up, right? So it's been a great episode. Thank you, Janene,
Yes,
for
thank
the
you.
great
Oh,
conversation
anytime.
on DISC.
Yeah,
It was
anytime.
This was
very
great.
informational. So, and thank you to all our viewers, and have a great week.
Bye,
Thank
everybody.
you,
Bye.
everyone.
Good night. Thank you.
Bye.